So we're in the midst of this winner-take-all economy, and the question is, how do we balance it and turn it around? Bernie and Elizabeth champion a wealth tax, which I understand and even agree with in spirit. But I'm a facts and figures guy, and when they've rolled out a wealth tax in Germany, France, Sweden, Denmark, and half a dozen other countries, it didn't work, and then they repealed it in all of those places. So to me, if we don't learn from the experiences of other developed countries who tried something, do we think the wealthy in America are somehow more excited about participating in a wealth tax than the wealthy in Germany, France, Sweden, Denmark? They're probably worse, if anything, right? And I'm like that would have to be the argument you make, is like, it's going to work better here because, and it's like, why? Because like our wealthy are like somehow different than their wealthy. So the question is, how do you actually turn that around and balance the economy in a meaningful way? And the way I would do it is through this value-added tax that falls most heavily on the tech companies like Amazon, Facebook, Google, and the gang. And the example I use is Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos is worth $115 billion post-divorce. It's no judgment. I mean, whatever. So that's a lot of money. If you ratchet up the income tax, let's say to 75%, how much of his $115 billion do we get? Next to nothing, because he's not dumb enough to pay himself $10 billion a year and then let us get $7.5 billion. He's just going to pay himself enough to just satisfy his lifestyle. So if the wealth tax would not be ideal, what I'm proposing is we have a transactional tax on his trillion-dollar tech company Amazon, and you take a toll as it's coming in, which would be the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars from Jeff. And then when he takes $1 billion out of his wealth every year and buys rocket ships to Mars, which he actually does in real life, that's not made up, you can look it up, you take a toll on that too. Essentially, you take tolls on like the high-end transactions that are fueling many of these tech companies. If you did this, you would generate $800 billion plus in new revenue almost immediately, with a big up arrow attached to it, because a lot of the value that's going to get generated is going to be, let me throw this out there. Let's say we have self-driving trucks. How much tax revenue will we see from that? None. Because the beneficiary will be one of the trillion-dollar tech companies that doesn't pay any taxes. So what we have to do is we have to get in there and say, hey, we actually get a tiny toll of every robot truck mile, so that we can harvest some of the $168 billion a year in cost savings from robot trucks and get it into our hands.